Hey, Nintendo fans and collectors. Welcome to the Nintendo Collecting Podcast, or NCP. I'm here to talk to you about all things Nintendo Switch related. I'm here with two guests. I have on a childhood friend named Alex. Say hello, Alex.
Hello, everyone.
And then I also have on Mark from our Zeldathons. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, good.
So we're here to talk about everything Nintendo Switch related, especially because the presentation just happened a few days ago. So March 3rd is the release date. First of all, I just want to talk to you guys about that date. What do you guys think about March 3rd being the release of this new console? Alex, what do you think?
I was honestly surprised. I thought it was going to be towards the end of the month, especially with them not having revealed the release date and it approaching mid-January at this point.
Absolutely.
Better, I guess. We have our hands on it sooner, but it's definitely a big surprise.
Yeah, what about you, Mark?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I was expecting it to be released more towards, I was thinking the later half of the month. So when they said March 3rd, I was actually happily surprised.
So you're happy with the early launch date?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought March 3rd, it's so soon. Most people, is the normal consumer going to be able to hear about this product in time was one of my worries, because March 3rd was so soon. But it is like an early gift. It's coming out maybe 2-3 weeks earlier than people thought. I thought maybe March 19th. But this time it's March the 3rd. I also want to just note, March the 3rd, to my understanding, is a Friday. Nintendo always releases their consoles. Do you know what day, Alex?
I thought I had heard Sundays somewhere, but I know the games do come out on Fridays a lot.
Correct. Consoles for Nintendo's history have always been Sundays. So a Friday is wonderful. We have the whole weekend to game ahead of time. So that's really cool. But yeah, March 3rd, so soon. What did you think, Mark, of the $300 US price point? No games, just the system, the Joycons, the dock, things like that. What did you think about that price point?
I thought, given it was a new console, it was a fair price point. When I started to find out prices of other stuff, I think it's actually a decent, to buy everything separately at least, I think it's actually a pretty decent price point, especially considering it's a brand new console and it's both a mobile and home console.
Yeah, it's both in one. So the price point for that kind of thing makes more sense. What about you, Alex?
It was a little shocking to hear $300 at the presentation, just because that $250 figure had been floating around on the internet for a couple of weeks. But I feel like $300 is pretty fair in this day and age, especially with the price of electronics.
Yeah, 300 is probably around fair. I remember the Wii when it launched. I think it was around 250, 280, something like that. So kind of comparable to this. My only fear with this is that the PS4 and the Xbox One have consoles similarly priced or even lower priced, and sometimes you get a game with them. So if they're trying to be competitive, I don't know how that will work out right now. But the Scorpio is coming out, and what's it called? The PlayStation 4 Plus or Pro or whatever it's called?
Pro.
The Pro? Okay, the Pro is coming out as well, so maybe those will be priced slightly above this. But you're right, Mark. You're getting a handheld system, you're getting a home system, you're getting both in one for $300. In Canada, where we're from, it's $400. Alex, during the presentation, do you remember how they announced all the prices and who got left out?
Yeah, it was pretty much Australia, here's your price. Japan, here's your price. North America, here's your price. Europe, you're on your own. Go figure it out.
Yeah, there are a lot of countries and different currencies in that region, but it was hilarious.
There's got to be at least 15 different currencies over there.
But they could have at least done the euro. Just give them the euros to give them an idea.
Euro and the pound, bare minimum.
Yeah, bare minimum. But they were just talk to your retailers. It's oh, thanks. They kind of left them in the dark, which is really funny. So I feel like that price point, at least they can bring it down, which I think we mentioned previously. If it's priced at 300, they can drop it if they need to, but they certainly can't increase it. So going 300 kind of makes sense. But
yeah, for sure. If they start selling them at 250 and realize that they're selling way more than they thought, they can't all of a sudden bump it up to make more money.
Yeah, and that would be a bad, the consumer marketplace would definitely be angry if that occurred. I don't think they'd be very happy about that. So I think Canadian $400. So Mark, did you pre-order this?
Yes.
You got this version, correct? This one that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I got the neon colored one.
Neon color ones, whereas I was at least lucky enough to pre-order this one. Where did you pre-order yours, Mark?
I got mine on Amazon.
Okay, so you got through on Amazon, which I didn't. I had it actually in my checkout box on various sites multiple times, and it wouldn't work out, and it froze. So eventually I got through later in the day on, I think it was EB Games in Canada, which is GameStop. But I was only able to get this version here, which I'm okay with. At least it looks like classical kind of black color, in my opinion.
It is still nice.
Yeah. Alex, are you going to pre-order this? Is this something that you're going to get in the future?
I'll be completely honest, it's not going to be a day one purchase. I see myself probably having it within a year, though.
Okay. It's good to have the different perspectives, though, too, because this is a large purchase to make, especially considering the launch lineup, which we'll talk about maybe a bit later. But it's March the 3rd, which is so soon. It's not like Christmas. You can ask it as a gift or anything. It's a really odd time that Nintendo doesn't usually launch systems at with home consoles, anyways. I feel like normally that's reserved for like the holiday season, but or at least October, maybe September. So that's a little bit different. Okay, so next up, what I want to talk about is the console. And the console itself is actually this screen that we're looking at right here. So this console, what we're looking at is a 6.2-inch capacitive multi-touch screen. And that's interesting because the capacitive touch is the one that most different electronics have right now. So at least they're not like copping out and taking the cheaper option. They're giving you like the proper option for the multi-touch, for the screen. So this is apparently a multi-touch screen. It's not a single touch screen, which is good. This is going to output in 720p when you're playing on the go. However, when you dock it, it will upscale it, or it will at least output at 1080p. What do you think you're going to use this more for, Alex? Do you think you're going to use this more for at the home or on the go?
Well, in comparison to the 3DS, which is similar in terms of portability, I play that probably 90% of the time at home, and I don't see that changing for the Switch. I just find it so much easier to game at home, in my element here, not having to worry about going in crowds or the battery dying while I'm out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just looking at it, it seems like it's not very portable in the sense that it looks flimsy. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable putting this in my bag at this point without at least a case going with it.
If it had a case, that'd be a lot better. What about you, Mark? Do you actually, when you get this, do you think you're going to be using this more at home or on the go?
I honestly don't know at this point. I think it's kind of a toss-up for me at the moment. I do agree with the flimsy part that I don't really trust throwing this in my bag and going somewhere. I feel like if I were to drop my bag, this would be pretty much done. But as for where I play, it's usually at home in front of the TV. But I mean, I could also see, given the option to have the same games where I could just stay in bed or something, I might actually do that more. I don't know at the moment, though.
Yeah, so maybe not necessarily playing in front of your TV, but being able to play in various locations in your house is appealing to me as well. If I ever do travel or go on planes, I'm absolutely taking this with me. But I do see myself probably playing this more at home. Do you guys think it's okay that they don't have 4K with this system? Is that something that you were expecting?
I wasn't. I mean, with Nintendo, I always expect them to be one behind.
That's true.
It's kind of just the way they've always gone. 4K is still new enough that I think most people won't notice.
Right.
But I mean, it would be nice considering this is probably going to be lasting a couple of years, and within probably a year or two, 4K will be pretty much the standard. So yeah, it'll be a bit of a fallback for them in a couple of years, but for now, I don't really expect it as much.
You're right. That's Nintendo. They're usually a little bit behind. Alex, did you have any expectations for better graphics with this?
Not really, and I don't really think that's a problem. I'm more of a gameplay person myself. As an example, just the Pokemon Sun and Moon recently came out, and they have no 3D in that game, and I much prefer that over the Generation 6 games, X and Y, which did have 3D in it. So even though there's a downgrade in the quality of the image, I still prefer the gameplay more.
That's a good point. I think 1080p is fine when you plug it into the system, and it does sound like the dock's doing something. So this dock will charge the system. It'll also output, obviously, to the TV, but apparently there's also USB ports in it that you can use. And when the Switch controllers or the Joy-Cons are plugged into it, that's when they will charge. The different Joy-Con grip that comes with the system. So let me just go to that Joy-Con grip and give you a shot of it in a moment. So this one here that actually comes with the system does not charge the Joy-Cons, allegedly. You do need to buy a separate one if you want to game and charge the Joy-Cons at the same time, or just plug them into your Switch console and then they're charging. But 20 hours on the Joy-Cons, which we'll get to in a minute. So the dock is $90 if you want to buy a separate docking station to have somewhere else in your house. Is that something ever you guys see buying? Do you think you'll buy that, Alex?
Probably not. Like, I only need one thing to charge it.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't buy another one.
No. If I'm going to use it on a different TV, I'll just move the stand.
Although one thing I could possibly see is if you're playing it and a friend comes over and they don't have their charger with them, just having it as a backup if they need an emergency charge.
Well, it does use USB-C charging, which is any sort of micro USB charging cable that most of us have multiple of already, which is wonderful. And like that's That's a huge thing for Nintendo to not make us, like Apple, kind of buy their new charging cable that they always usually do. So I'm really impressed with Nintendo going that route. I think the USB Type-C charging connector is really important. That makes the smaller battery life that we'll talk about a bit better, I think, that I can deal with. So let's next talk about the battery. Apparently, the battery can last for more than 6 hours, but most games are around 2.5 to 3 hours. Breath of the Wild's rumored to be, they said, 3 hours on a single charge. Do you think that's enough to call this a true like handheld gaming experience? Is that enough to make you happy, Mark?
If you define it as a true handheld gaming experience, maybe not so much, but I'd be looking at it as a home console on the go. So 3 hours, I think, given the graphics that it's doing, is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I mean 720p. What about you? What do you think, Alex?
I would say the most recent comparable being the 3DS. It's pretty comparable to that in terms of when the 3DS is fully on, it lasts about 4 or 5 hours before it needs charging again. So it's not a huge step up or step down.
I think including that USB Type-C connector that we can actually charge on the go and stuff like that, that makes it more appealing. That makes it easier for me to actually accept this, I think, decision that they're doing this. And of course, Nintendo's usually a company, even with the Wii U gamepad, that only lasts about 3 hours as well. You could buy the high capacity battery if you wanted. And I do feel like that's coming for the Nintendo Switch as well. So there will be an upgrade battery that you can pay for, but at least this keeps the system's cost down a little bit more. So I think that's at least appealing. The system also has obviously various modes that you can play this in. Before we get farther into that, the mode that I'm really interested in, actually, I think it's kind of cool that you can get this console, and this almost goes back to like the original Famicom. There's 2 controllers included right in this console right away. So you can, use the stand, put up this system, hand a Joy-Con to your friend, and then start playing this on the go, which is interesting. So that's called tabletop mode. There's also, I think, just on the go or normal mode where the Joy-Cons are actually in the system, and that's the one that we were looking at mostly already through this. So this one right here is called, like, I don't know, playing mode or on-the-go mode or portable mode. And then there's also TV mode. So they're really catering to those 3 modes. That's interesting. Do you think it's something that you'll actually use, tabletop mode, with a friend, that you'd put it down and hand a Joy-Con over to a friend and then play it with someone else?
Personally, I don't see myself taking it out to places where that would be a need. I would see it being on the TV and using the Joy-Con separately.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about you, Mark?
One of the things I always didn't like about home consoles is that when I go over to my friend's house, if they wanted to play Wii U, I had to bring all the cables, everything, like plug it all in. So I can actually see this being useful. Just bring over just that part, sit it on the table, and everyone plays. I mean, on a 6.1 inch screen, it's not going to be the best experience.
Depends on the game, right? It really does depend on the game that they're showing off right now. So on the go and the 3 different modes are kind of interesting about this system, which more ways of playing isn't bad for me, especially being able to share the experience and maybe hand the controller to a friend to play something else. I think that's pretty cool. The other part about these Joy-Cons that I think is really important that we haven't talked about yet or gotten to, and I just want to go to the actual image of the Joy-Cons. Let me just find that for a second, is the HD rumble included in these things and all the different buttons that you can kind of see in this. So here's everything in this system, basically. So we're having the ZL and the ZR buttons, and also I think there's just the normal buttons of the there's ZR, there's the L and R buttons as well. So this is very, very similar to the Pro controller on the Wii U or the previous controllers. You did have 2 Z buttons and 2 L and R buttons. You also have the plus and the minus buttons. You have the directional pad kind of with the directional buttons this time around. And you also have the A, B, X, Y buttons and the right stick, the left stick, which makes a lot of sense. This time around, though, the new things that you have a capture button on the left that's going to take pictures, and it might allow you to stream to like something like Twitch or YouTube in the future. I don't know if that's true or is going to come for sure, but that does have a capture button. You can at least take pictures. And then there's also the SL and the SR buttons, where if you turn these controllers sideways, you can now use them independently. So that's kind of interesting as well. I think these things on their own, they're a lot smaller than Wii remotes. Do these look comfortable? Mark and Alex, you're both quite tall individuals. Do you think this will look comfortable to hold in your hands compared to a Wii remote? These things are much smaller than them. What do you think, Alex?
I'm skeptical right now, but we'll have to wait and see.
Actually experience it and hold it.
Yeah, like it looks really tiny. I feel like I'm going to be really uncomfortable holding it. I don't know if maybe later down the line we'll come out with a bigger model, like the XL for 3DS.
Right, something like that, maybe.
Yeah.
What about you, Mark? What do you think?
I'm the same way because I don't know. I'm just trying to picture holding these things, thinking how tall the system would be. I worry that like my palm would press the ZR button if I was holding the red one. And it also looks like the buttons are not identical. Like if you were playing on the red one and then you were to switch and instead play on the blue one, it looks like the buttons are actually like in different proximity to
They
the
are.
edge of the controller.
They
So I
are.
don't know
Yep.
how that would be.
Yeah, that's a good point. So looking at the left stick compared to the right stick, and Alex, you and I were talking about this previously. The left stick looks a lot better. Like it looks like it's located in a better spot for holding the controller. The right stick looks like it's way more in the middle, which might be a little bit awkward. But conversely, if you're holding the red one, the A, B, X, Y buttons look like they're in the right spot, but then the directional buttons on the blue one look like they're not in the right spot. So I feel like no matter what, you're kind of getting something that might feel a little bit awkward. Nintendo probably tried to make these as symmetrical as possible, but you're right. It's going to be a little bit different, obviously, holding these things.
Yeah, like if I'm at a game tonight where it's me and one other person, I'm going to be fighting for the one that has the joystick a little bit higher up, the blue one in your picture here.
Yeah, I would agree probably because then the joystick feels more comfortable. The last part of the controller, the Joy-Cons that I really want to talk about is the IR motion camera on the right one. So that motion camera is really important. Apparently, in some games, you can, depends on how far away you're holding your hand, you can do rock, paper, scissors. It would actually read your hand movements as well. Do you guys see that something interesting to you this generation, the motion with that camera? What do you think, Mark?
I think it really depends on how they use it. I mean, it's a cool idea to have there ready. It's like everything else. It's how they use it, whether or not it gets a really cool use in game.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the motion controls because both of these are kind of like Wii remotes, where they do have motion controls. Just do people still want to do that this generation? But it's nice that Nintendo is kind of incorporating all their previous systems and their controllers and the ideas from them in these controllers. But what about you, Alex? What do you think about motion control this time around?
Well, I'm getting a little fed up of it. Like at the most recent Zeldathon we had to play quite a bit of Skyward Sword, and just was dreading it having to use that instead of having the option to play on a Pro controller, which is an option, of course, on this console.
Yeah, that's true. So moving on from motion controls, there's also HD Rumble, which they really showed during their presentation. They said that the HD Rumble, obviously, you can tell if there's certain amount of ice cubes kind of in the controller or ball bearings or things like that. I think I need to experience that to actually see what it's like. Going back to Star Fox on the N64 and that Rumble, that was kind of just like a continuous rumble effect. But I think this could be really interesting. Maybe that's why their Pro controller is so expensive, which we'll get to as well. But apparently that's supposed to be some new type of experience with the Rumble. Are you guys excited for that?
Yeah, I can't wait to try it.
Yeah,
I
it
think
sounds interesting. It's going to be, like Mark said, for the other thing, it's one of those things we'll have to see what they actually do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And then Amiibo, there is NFC reading capability on the Joy-Con R, so you can get this. It's also included in the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, which is good to note that Amiibo aren't going anywhere. During the original presentation video, the launch of the Switch, they showed the Amiibo right there by the Mario game that she was playing, that this is absolutely going to work with Amiibo all over again. So that's kind of nice. Rechargeability, like we said, when it's docked to the system, about 20 hours is what you're going to get. The next thing I just want to talk about, the colors. So the colors of these, you can obviously buy the neon blue. You can buy 2 of them. You can also get the black ones. You can get the red ones. You can get 1 of each. And it's interesting to note that if you get the 1 of each, the left one here is going to be red. Whereas when you buy the system itself, the right one is red. So if you buy the dual pack, you'll have 1 left that's red and 1 right that's red. Then you have both of them as a pack, which I do think is important to most people to have 1 of each so that you can put them both in your system. The colors, Alex, what do you think of the colors? Because you were kind of mentioning when this is on the system, when I talked to you previously, what are your thoughts on this?
Personally, I think it looks a little tacky when it's 2 separate colors, but if it's just straight blue or straight red, I think it looks nice. I'm a big fan of neon colors. Look nice and bright. Give it some flair when you're playing games.
Yeah, I love the extreme green back on the Nintendo 64. That neon color was really cool. I like the spiced orange and the emerald green from Japan on the GameCube. Kind of nice, bright, vibrant colors from Nintendo. What do you think about this, Mark? This is the version that you pre-ordered.
I think it'll be cool. I'm not really against the dual color thing. But like Alex said, like I could see myself getting a bit tired of it down the road. But I didn't know that. I never noticed that when you buy the dual color Joy-Cons that you get the opposite.
Yeah,
So I
so
never noticed that before. So that's cool. Like that's an interesting fact.
the left one here is blue, and then when you go to the dual pack that you can buy, let me just go here, the right one will be blue. So that's really important just to note for any of you that didn't know that. At least they kept that in mind. That almost makes me wish I pre-ordered the neon color version because I want both matching colors at some point. So I do
You
want
still
that.
can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pre-ordering this twice, I guess, but we'll see at some point. So sticking with the Joy-Cons, you do have these grips that come with it as well. So this has this little additional piece that goes on top of the controller that you can see there. That makes the controller for me look a lot more comfortable, like insanely more comfortable, and it makes the new buttons, the SL and SR buttons, it looks like these are now full controllers. It also has the wrist strap that comes with it. What do you guys think about that inclusion of those wrist straps?
I kind of wish they included them with the base system.
Right.
At first I thought they did, and then I've started kind of realizing they don't. But I think they're a cool add-on.
Oh, so they don't even have it with the system. I
It
didn't
doesn't
even
look
notice
like
that.
it.
Joy-Con straps, it does say here that they're included. So we might
Oh, it
actually,
does. I never saw that.
they might be included. This was on Nintendo's website where I got this image from actually. So I'm hoping that these are actually included. So you do get the normal black ones. Yeah, you'll get them with the system, it looks like, along with the HDMI cable and the AC adapter, the Joy-Con grip and everything like that. So at least those are included. It does make the controllers look like a more fully functional controller and a little bit better than just simply using the Wii remote to me. This looks like it's going to be a little bit more comfortable than the Wii remote because holding these things looks really uncomfortable actually right now.
Yeah.
I just feel like holding a Wii remote sideways was never really optimal. It never really felt that good. So if you can actually hold them in the holders, I think that'll be a lot better than holding them individually. So because here it just doesn't look comfortable for me. So having them actually in the grips, I'm excited for that. I think that'll be a little bit better. And of course, there's so many different variations that you can buy these things. So let's just go to the prices for them really quickly. I'm gonna go to the price first for these on their own. So if you want to buy just one of the Joy-Cons, you can buy it for $50 US. So that's a little bit more expensive, but I guess the HD Rumble they're talking about here. If you want to buy two of them, it's $80 US for the pair, and there's a lot of different variations that you can get, obviously, of the gray, the neon blue, neon red, and the various different packages. So those Joy-Cons are going to be extremely important as well. Let's get to that Pro controller, though. Oh, before I mention the Pro controller, the Joy-Con charging grip. So this is a charging grip, not the one that comes with the system. That's $30 that you can get that. We already mentioned that the docking station is $90. Let's get to that Pro controller. So the Pro controller, it will come with the NFC reader. It also comes with the HD Rumble, but it's $70 US. Is that too much for you guys to spend on a controller? In Canada, where we are, this is probably going to be $100 for a controller. Mark, are you going to be picking one of these up?
Probably not off the bat. It's enough that I haven't pre-ordered it yet, so we'll see.
I can't find a pre-order for it in Canada, actually, where we are. It's not on most of the websites. It's just not listed quite yet. But I'm going to hold off for this probably a little bit until I need to get it. What about you, Alex? Is this something that you would want to get?
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. Even though I don't plan on getting the system for quite a bit of time, I'm going to want the Pro controller right away because I feel like I'll be using that quite a bit.
If it's far more comfortable, then I agree. But if the Joy-Cons in that Joy-Con charging grip or the Joy-Con grip is okay, then I'll be fine using that one instead. But we'll see how it actually feels as a controller because this doesn't look as comfortable with the grip. All right, so the prices of other things, obviously the system itself is $300 that we see right there. You could buy it in either variation. The last item that they have up on the website that we haven't mentioned yet is the Joy-Con wheel. It's a set of two this time for $15 US. It really is just plastic. But do you guys have these for the Wii?
I think I have one.
Okay, I have at least two, I think.
Yeah, I have one for the Wii, and I never got the one for the Wii U. I was promised it, but then the store went out of business, so I never got it.
That's terrible. But I think like if it's two of them for $15, that seems about right. I think one of them was $10 for the Wii U or for the Wii in US dollars. So I feel like that's okay for that accessory, but the charging dock station to have a second one in your house for $90 seems a bit extreme. You do get the AC adapter and you do get the HDMI cable, but I need to know what is actually in this dock. If there's any sort of tech in this dock other than just being USB and being able to plug it in and charge it. If there's more into the dock, then maybe that's more affordable or maybe it makes sense. So adding these up, you've got $90 for the dock. You've got 2 of the Joy-Cons, which is $80. And then you have, of course, the system itself and all the other little inserts that comes with this. So $300, I guess the price point makes sense adding it all up. Just the hardest pill to swallow is the Pro controller. That seems like it's a lot of money just for one controller. The other question I have, you guys, colors. What colors would you like to see for Joy-Cons? What colors do you see happening in the future that aren't announced yet?
Well, I want to see them continue on with the neon trend. I want to probably see lime green, yellow, pink in the future. Just really vibrant colors to make the system feel alive while you're playing it.
That'd be cool. What about you, Mark?
I'm gonna have to agree with the green.
Green would be cool.
Green, maybe white, maybe.
Yeah, something like going back to the Wii. I think they're trying to distance themselves from the Wii as much as possible, and that's why they just got rid of the white for this generation so far. But we'll see. I'd be fine with it. I think green would look cool. I thought green, though, should have been for The Legend of Zelda or gold, but that game's already coming out, and nothing's being released for it, so that's kind of different. For Mario, the colors that they would usually release would be red or blue, but those are already here, so I'm not sure what they'll do with that. Any other colors we'd like to see? I'm just trying to think. Like orange for me would be really awesome. I'd love to see like a neon orange, neon yellow, neon green. Just bring me all the neon colors. Why not? Make them highlighters. I'm fine with that.
I can see yellow coming out if there's a Donkey Kong game in the future.
Yeah, Donkey Kong would be cool with the yellow or something like that. If they keep them neon colors, I'm okay with that. That allows for a lot more. Are you into collecting these things? Is it something that you think you guys might get if there's many different colors?
No. I just want to pick the one I like the most to look at and just stick with that.
Nice, that makes sense. What about you, Mark?
If it was cheaper, then yes, but at that price point, probably no.
No, that doesn't quite make as much sense, does it? Okay, and the last kind of topics that we're getting into as we finish up this Switch discussion is with the system, there's going to be 32 gigabytes of internal storage. The Wii U had an 8 gigabyte model and a 32 gigabyte model, and both of them were kind of, consumers weren't really happy with that very small storage space. Apparently, Breath of the Wild will almost be half of that storage capacity. Now, you can increase the storage capacity with micro SD cards, XC or HC, it doesn't really matter. And they will work with the largest cards that are possibly produced. Right now it's 256, but eventually it will be compatible with 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte cards. So that's something else that you'll have to buy. But what do you think about Nintendo going this direction rather than them making their own sort of storage capacity device that you need to buy their own memory card? Are you happy with this decision, Alex?
It's something they haven't done well in the past, so it's an improvement, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
Pretty much same. At least with the cartridges that the games come on, you don't necessarily have to have a card yet. So, I mean, it's a way to lower the price at the beginning.
Yes, absolutely. And you're right. If you have the cards that the games do come on, you can probably just save to those and you don't need all that. In terms of the processor, it's a custom Tegra processor powered by NVIDIA, which a lot of people are talking about ahead of time. I don't know the specs on that very much. Networking, it's going to connect to the internet. It's going to connect it wirelessly. However, 8 systems can connect over a wireless network. 8 systems, which is absolutely incredible. I'm really excited for that. That's something that Nintendo really did show off and talk about. I think that's going to be awesome. I'm just hoping for more multiplayer games actually on the system itself, so that you don't have to always bring in your own system. You can play 4-player Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on one system, which is true, but I hope you can play 4-player Splatoon on one system, and you all don't need your own system to play it, because that would be a little bit odd. I could see the 3 of us like bringing our Switches over and all playing at the same time. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, that would be really interesting and really neat. So with the Nintendo Switch, just to summarize all of your thoughts.
Would you want to talk about the online cost at all?
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Why not? The online will be monthly. And with that monthly online, we're not sure what we'll get. We're not even positive it will be monthly. Just they announced that you'll get an NES or Super Nintendo game free for that month. So, Alex, what's a good price point for you in your head that you'd be willing to pay for this either annually or monthly for an online connection that's coming. It's starting in the fall 2017.
Well, I don't think you can avoid the comparables in the Xbox and PlayStation, so we're probably looking at $50 to $60 a year, $4 to $5 a month.
I think
Nothing
that's
too
true.
crazy.
American. Yeah. Mark, is something like online, is that something you're going to be paying for?
I think inevitably, yes. Just because that's usually where I end up when I have my Xbox. I always bought online. But yeah, I think probably around the 50, 60 would be reasonable because they do have to compare, but they also have to make sure they provide the same level of quality to be able to price it like that.
Nintendo Online has usually been very unique. They've had some really good moments with Miiverse. I've really liked some aspects of it. And I actually like the purchasing system with Nintendo. I feel like they have one of the best online stores of anyone. But sometimes it's a little convoluted to find the best games. And I feel like they could always improve their experience. But going pay to play online, I think it had to happen. It was coming in the future. So I think if they do charge something like $5 a month, I think that's okay. Originally, I said what happens if they charge $20 a month or $30 a month, but that's extremely expensive, and I think that's way beyond what they should be charging for online. So hopefully it's $5 and no more than 10, but 10 would even then be too much, I think, on this.
Oh yeah, way too much.
Yeah, absolutely. So with this system, is this something that you think at this price point with these specs, Mark, do you think this system is going to be successful enough for Nintendo so that they have more home consoles hopefully in the future? Like, do you think this is going to quote unquote save Nintendo? Are they doing enough with this system?
I think, like usual, at the start, all the diehard Nintendo fans are going to buy it. They're all going to pre-order it or buy it soon enough. But just like I always think of the 3DS when I decided to buy it is because I tried it finally and saw what it did. So I think they're doing a really good job in actually pushing, like going on tours around North America, showing off the Switch. And I think that's what's going to really decide whether it actually sells.
That's a good point. Can they get people in it? Can they have people with it in their hands? Because the Wii was really successful, especially once people started trying it and they started playing like Wii tennis and Wii bowling, and all ages were really captivated by it. What about you, Alex? Do you think this will be a success for Nintendo?
Well, I think there's a positive and a negative. I'll start with the positive. It's obviously a brand new system, unlike the Wii U, which a lot of people just assumed was a rebranding of the Wii system or just an upgrade to it. It's obviously something entirely new that you have to buy, all new games, all new experiences. So it has that going for it. But the only downside I see is the 3DS sold a ton of systems, and if this is a kind of replacement for that, it's going to have to make up for lost sales for the separate handheld compared to the home console.
Yes, they said they're still going to support the 3DS, so this will now almost be competing with themselves.
But interestingly enough, when the DS came out, they advertised that as a third pillar to go along with the GameCube and the Game Boy Advance. It was never supposed to replace the Game Boy Advance, but we all know that happened.
Yes, it's always eventually going to happen with that kind of idea. So I think Nintendo is they're going to be more successful with this than they are with the Wii U. This is much clearer branding. This is a better title for the system. This makes a lot of sense. And like Mark said, especially once people start trying this out. And there is an event close to where we live in Toronto, which I might be inclined to go to at some point if I can. There's going to be a crazy lineup. They say don't line up before 7 o'clock. There won't be a line, but of course there'll be a line before 7 a.m. I need to check what day it's on to see if I can actually go, but it's something that I am interested in going to, seeing if I can try this out. I think their launch lineup looks very concerning. Other than Breath of the Wild, I don't know about their launch, and I almost feel like they're launching this a little bit too early. I'm apprehensive about that March 3rd date. I would have been fine if they pushed this back into summer and released this with Splatoon, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and The Legend of Zelda. I would have been personally okay with that, but this is what they're doing, and hopefully Nintendo will find success with this. I feel like the price is okay. I feel like the system is setting itself up for success to be home and handheld, and I'm more excited for if they do release a Pokemon game on this thing. This will sell really well, but I'm fearful they'll hold off Pokemon for the 3DS. I don't know what they'll do.
It's usually about a year between releases, so we're still looking at about 7 or 8 months at this point. Probably around 10, maybe.
Yeah, I think we should have a whole different conversation about games, but I'm fearful if they do release Pokemon Stars or Eclipse or whatever the sequel to Sun and Moon is on the Nintendo Switch, most people will think that's the death of the 3DS, which Nintendo is not prepared to do. Not with their 50 million units sold, roughly. So,
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure for November releases for Pokemon, they don't announce the games until February, March, April area. So for them not to announce it during the presentation isn't unusual.
that's very true. And E3 will come very soon after launch in June. It will come up very quickly on us.
Yeah, and you did mention earlier in the podcast that consoles usually are released later in the year. I just noticed that the 3DS came out in February and March of 2011, so it's not unheard of for them to release the system this early in the year.
Yes, I said that for home consoles. I remember that for the 3DS being a little bit earlier. Most home consoles were always a October release or something of the sort. But yes, that's very early for the 3DS. It's different. Especially sometimes they release the system in different dates or on different dates worldwide. But March 3rd is very shocking and unexpected. $300 for this system. One thing just to note, if you're looking to play online, you can also plug in a, what are they called? The modems or something like that. If you want, you can connect that in instead. That will work with a LAN adapter, I think it's called as well. So that's another way that you can play the system online if you're looking to it. Mark and Alex, I want to thank you guys for joining me in this podcast of the Nintendo Collecting. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So if anyone watching, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can clearly comment below and ask me questions. If you're watching this on one of the or listening to this on one of the various podcasting sites, you can find me on various forms of social media. Just search Nintendo Collecting and you can find me, of course. Tune into another podcast, hopefully coming soon. I think the next topic could be variable, but hopefully it'll be The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But we'll get to that when we do. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to fill that like bucket. Again, follow me on all the social media links you can find everywhere on the internet. And as always, go collect them all. Keep smiling while gaming. Thanks so much for joining in.